Thank you, everyone. It's good to be here. I am excited for your summer. Are you excited for your summer?
Yeah.
You a little scared about your summer?
Yeah.
If you're not, hopefully I'll make you scared by the end. No, I am thrilled. Thank you so much for investing yourself this summer in following God's plan for your life and for being here at camp. There are a lot of other opportunities probably that can make a lot more money for you than working here at camp. So thank you for investing in kids. I did not grow up in a Christian home. I didn't come to know Jesus as my Savior until I was almost 16 years old. So I did not have the opportunity to go to a Christian camp. I became, of all things, a senior pastor. I was a senior pastor for 16 years, pastoring 4 churches in that time. And then, as I always like to say, God promoted me to children's ministry. You know how people say children's ministry, youth ministry, senior pastor? No, it's senior pastor, youth pastor, children's pastor. We'll just reverse that order. So thank you for investing in kids. I serve about 1,000 kids at our church, West Shore Evangelical Free Church in Mechanicsburg. So I've been there almost 15 years, and I've had a great experience. 9.5 of those years I have been working with at-risk kids. I had a friend who worked with Child Evangelism Fellowship, and she was leading a Bible club for elementary kids. She had been doing that for 7 years at a complex called Cumberland Point, 113 townhouses of low-income families. They're 3- and 4-bedroom homes, townhomes, so they tend to attract larger families. She was going to be leaving Child Evangelism Fellowship, and she didn't want to see her Bible club discontinued, so she said, "Terry, would you be willing to take this club over and continue to run it?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to do that." So we worked for a couple months together, and she left, and I let go. Got busy, it just fell apart. Not proud of that, but that was the reality of it. A couple months later, I get contacted by New Hope Ministries, which is kind of a Christian, faith-based social service ministry. And they said, "You know, we're running programs for middle schoolers and high schoolers, but we don't have anything for the younger siblings who are in elementary. And they keep asking us, when are you going to do something for us? And we don't have anybody to lead a program for them at Cumberland Point. Would you be willing to lead a program?" It's like, okay, God, you're giving me a second chance. Has God ever given you a second chance before?
Yes.
Yeah. So I said, "Thank you, God. I'm not going to drop the ball this time." And so I took up the challenge to create our own program at our church for the Cumberland Point kids, and I've been doing it now for 9.5 years. And of all the ministries I do, that would probably be the last one I would ever let go. Because I am convinced that these kids have had so many people, especially men, in and out of their lives. I'm not going to be the next man to just come into their life and outside their life. And for a lot of their cases, they have known me longer than they have known any other man in their life. So you are going to have the opportunity to meet some of these kids, because I'm going to bring them up to you.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got 9 kids coming up for Energizer 1, and I've got 4 kids coming up for Jumpstart 1. I do want to say right up front about one of the girls that I'm bringing up for Jumpstart 1. She is Muslim. I have a Muslim boy, 5th grader. His name is Humed. He's coming for Energizer 1. But I have a girl, Akram Abdul Wahab, who was actually here a couple years ago, says she accepted Christ. Not sure that she really understands what that is, or whether she just did it because that's what you do at a Christian camp. She is coming back, but she is a little fearful this year because now at her age she's wearing a burqa. And she's concerned about how counselors, how other campers are going to react to her. She is the sweetest girl you will ever meet. If she is in your cabin, you will be blessed by her. I truly mean that. But do me a favor and talk to the campers, or just be aware of anybody who may be looking at her a little standoffish, thinking that she belongs to ISIS or something because she's wearing a burqa. And just encourage the kids to get to know her, because she is wonderful, and I'm excited for her coming back here. So if you would do that. am here to talk to you about at-risk kids. You are here because you want to make an impact on kids' lives. Maybe you grew up going to Christian camp and you've got great memories of it, and so you just think this is going to be the greatest thing for all the campers, and then you're going to run into some kids who push you to your limits. Okay? Nice thing is, I'm bringing them up for Energizer 1 and Jumpstart 1, so the rest of your summer should go okay. Somebody else is bringing those kids up as well. I don't know. But God knows who's coming to camp and who's going to be in your cabin. So, what do we mean by the at-risk kids who are going to push you to your limits? If you follow along in your papers, you'll see this. I've written it all out for you so you don't have to be busy taking notes and everything. An at-risk child is a child who demonstrates an ongoing social, psychological, and educational problems that severely and negatively impact his or her life and those in relationship with the child. It's not somebody who's just having a bad morning, or just a bad day, or is having difficulty in adjusting to being away from home by being at camp early. We're talking about ongoing issues, okay? It might be mental issues, educational issues, social issues. What's going on with this child? How are they sometimes expressed? You'll see that here. Sometimes it's angry outbursts. They'll just yell. They'll say, I hate you. They may swear at you. They just may get angry, and it's like, I didn't even see anything happen. What set this child off? It may have been just the littlest thing. Totally imperceptible by you, but a big deal to them. It might be disruptive behavior. You take them to an activity, and they jump right in and they grab all the stuff and they start playing with it instead of waiting to hear what your instructions are. Maybe they're constantly talking while you're talking. Maybe they're continually poking kids and disrupting while you're trying to lead a Bible study. Maybe they're the ones who refuse to go to sleep at night when it's lights out and you're dead tired. Maybe hateful words and actions. They may fight. One of the boys that's coming up, Xavier Steele, has gotten thrown out of school many times. He's a third grader. He's here for camp for the first time last year. Didn't have any problems with him at camp. But you may. His modus operandi, if he gets upset by somebody, is to beat him up. That's just what he does. But he can be a real sweet kid too. I don't know. They don't think anything of cussing and swearing, giving you the finger, all those kinds of things. And that's going to be difficult because you're going to have Christian kids here who haven't grown up in that environment. They're coming here for a very positive experience. And they're going to see this kid. It's like, whoa, I didn't come to Christian camp for this. And parents didn't send them to a Christian camp for that. I've had some of these kids in my upward sports programs, basketball and cheerleading programs, and I've lost cheerleading girls and their families because some of my cheerleaders flipped off some of the other girls. And the parents said, I've got my kids in a Christian sports program so they aren't exposed to that. I don't want my kids around. So, yes, there's going to be challenges. They may demonstrate the opposite behaviors. They may be more withdrawn, reserved, sad, shy, silent, fearful. They are going to be so out of their element here that they may act out or they may withdraw. Now again, if you see somebody quiet, shy, reserved, sad, don't say, oh, they must be an at-risk child. Okay, don't be quick to label them. It may just be, being away from family and being detached from familiar surroundings. And that's why they're responding the way they are. But keep your eyes open for patterns of behavior. Now we need to ask, why do they act the way that they do? And one reason they may act, it's not true in every case, but one reason they may act this way, act different than other kids, is that their brains don't function the same way that a typical child's brain functions. If we look at a child with Down syndrome or a child with autism, mental retardation, things like that, you can take a look at them and you can pick up there's something different about this child. It's not so obvious from the physical appearance of the at-risk child. They look like the typical child. And so you have typical expectations. Their brains may not work the same way. We've got a man in our church who led our disabilities ministry. He fell off some steps at the age of 3 and he was brain damaged. And so he has trouble walking. His one arm kind of is stiff, it sticks back as he walks, and he walks with a limp. And you say, okay, this man has gone through some trauma in his life. But again, this may not be so evident with the at-risk children, and so you've got to remind yourselves, it may be that I'm asking of this child something that it is difficult for this child to do because of the way their brain is wired. Some of these children may have been born to mothers who abused alcohol or drugs. Do you think that affects a child's development? I'm sure it does. Maybe the mother didn't have proper prenatal care. So developmentally, some of these children may be different. Studies of the brain often show that the cerebellum is underdeveloped and neurological connections within the brain are often lacking in at-risk children. They can do brain scans of these children and show that their brains are different. Why is the cerebellum important? There is increasing recognition that the cerebellum contributes to cognitive processing and emotional control, in addition to its role in motor coordination. So their cerebellum hasn't developed in a healthy way, and they're having cognitive processing problems. Why do I have to tell you 10 times to do this? Maybe something's not working. Emotional control. Why do they lash out? Why do they get angry and fly off the handle with the littlest things? Why do they want to provoke fights? Because their cerebellum isn't typical. Just keep that in mind. We make accommodations for autistic children, Down syndrome children and other children. But again, because these at-risk children may look typical and sometimes act typical, we have typical expectations of them that may not fit with who they really are. So just consider that. It's important to understand that most, if not all, at-risk children come from very different cultures than yours. How many of you have ever gone on a missions trip? Okay. When you go on a missions trip, do you study the culture of the people that you're going to? Or do you just expect that that culture is going to be like your culture here in the United States? You study the culture, don't you? I take 5th and 6th graders on missions trips every year. We're doing 3 trips this year, our 18th, 19th, and 20th. We take 5th and 6th graders to Costa Rica, Honduras, or the Dominican Republic. They are very different cultures than here. We spend 40 hours in training. Probably 20 hours of that training is on learning the culture and dealing with cross-cultural issues and culture stress. These kids come from a different culture. They may come from the United States. They may come even from your own community. Cumberland Point is 5.5 miles away from our church, and yet it is a different world when you go there. Totally different culture, totally different rules. You've got to understand they are coming from a different culture. So just as you would see somebody from India or China or Korea or South Africa and say, oh, they're going to act differently because they're from a different culture. These kids are coming from a different culture, I guarantee it. Their culture is different than yours. And so if you want to minister to them, get to understand them, and to get to understand them, understand the culture that they're coming from. We often teach our kids on mission trips, don't judge if something's right or wrong, good or bad, it's just different. So with at-risk kids, get to know their environment. It's different and special. especially for kids, my heart goes out to them because they didn't get to choose the family that they were born to. They weren't able to choose the environment that they are growing up in. So I can't say, well, too bad, kid, you picked this. You chose this. No. But somebody chose it for him, and it was God. Does God make mistakes? No. Doesn't make mistakes. So get to learn their culture. They are often children who have been abused or neglected. They are at-risk kids that are abused and neglected. I've seen kids with horrible scars and burn marks that look like hot water's been poured on them and they've just been beaten, and it's just so sad. Why does that happen? Because there's a lot of non-family adults living in the same household. They don't have any emotional attachment. If mom's latest boyfriend is living with him and the kids are acting up, he's just going to smack him and beat him up because he's got no fatherly attachment to these kids. He's got some attachment to the mother, but not to the kids. Or they come from single-parent homes. It's tough enough being a double-parent family, let alone having all the responsibility in a single parent. And so it's tough to be a single parent. With all the responsibilities of raising a child and working and doing all these things. And so sometimes a parent comes home at the end of the day and they've had a horrible day at work, and they come home to the kids and the kids didn't clean up their messes and they didn't do any of the chores that they were supposed to do that day, or they're fighting and making noise, and the mom has just had it, she's at her wit's end, and she just smacks them. She loses control. I'm not saying that's right, but can you understand it? Have you ever gotten so stressed out you just beat your pillow or something, take it out on something? Okay, or you just go out in the middle of nowhere and yell and scream and just release it. Well, they feel that way too. Or working parents doing shift work. A lot of parents of the kids that I work with are second shift workers. So they see their kids for maybe 20 minutes in the morning before the kid gets off to school on the bus. Kid comes home, nobody's home. Mom's not getting off of work until 11 o'clock. Won't be home until 11:30, 11:45. Maybe the child will stay up to say hi to mom. Maybe the child will already be in bed. Are they being neglected? Well, kind of. But what's the mom to do? She's working to provide for her family, and this is what's available to her. She may not have a lot of high skill jobs where she can work at, an 8 to 5, 9 to 5 job and see your kids off in the morning, be home soon after they get back from school. So that's going to make an influence. They live in high-risk family environments. There may be drug and or alcohol dependency in the home, an unstable home environment with people coming in and out all the time, lack of healthy, nurturing relationships with adults or peers, and especially absent fathers. We worked with about 25 kids this year. I can think of 2 families where the kids had their biological fathers at their house living with them. It makes a huge difference. I've had kids ask me, Pastor Terry, are you married? Yes. How long have you been married? I said, well, almost 36 years. They said, how many girlfriends do you have? I said, I'm married. I don't have girlfriends. No, really, how many girlfriends do you have? And they're serious. They're not trying to be smart ass, but doesn't every man have girlfriends on the side? Because that's the culture that they're used to. That's going to impact how you look at things. It's going to be how they look at you. Single moms are often working to support families. They work second or third shifts, so the children are left for long lengths of time. We'll see how that impacts kids later. Children were raised by young mothers who were children themselves and didn't know how to parent. Remember when you were 14, 15, 16 years old, were you ready to be a mom or a dad? Would it have been better for them to have aborted these kids? No. Yeah. So don't judge the mom. Say, hey, thank you for keeping your child, for not aborting that child. It's got to be really tough to raise a child. I bet you missed out on a lot of things that you would have liked to have done as a teen, but you couldn't because you had a baby to take care of. It's got to be really hard now to be a single parent. Tell me about your struggles. So get to know these kids, getting to know their culture. Ask them about their family life. And hold on for what they tell you. Many of them have parents that have been incarcerated or may still be incarcerated. They don't know their parents may be dead. But get to know their family life. It'll help you understand why they are the way they are. Generational patterns of dysfunction in families is not necessarily starting with their generation, but this has just been going on generation after generation after generation. And what happens is at-risk kids usually will come from communities like Cumberland Point, where you got all these dysfunctional families all together. And so that's normal. We tend to judge the world by the communities we live in, our surroundings. They're doing the same thing. I was born and raised in Chicago. Everybody thought, oh, let's build public housing, and they made these huge tenement apartment buildings, 20, 25 stories tall, hundreds if not thousands of apartments in them with lots and lots of people living all together, and it was a social disaster. Because you had all these problems going on together, confined in this one building. And they've torn them down. It was a mess. I would love to tear down Cumberland Point. I would love to blow it up and scatter all these families into neighborhoods where there are healthy, functioning families so they can see what that's like, because they don't know what it's like. For our after-school program, we bring them to our church. One, because the neighborhood doesn't have a community center, but two, we want to pull them out of that environment. I love to get them involved, like in upward sports, so that they can be around other kids, socially, and see that there's a different way to live than the dysfunction that surrounds them. They consistently seek attention for any reason, whether appropriately or inappropriately, because even negative attention is better than no attention at all. And that will affect how you deal with them. And we'll get into that. They've suffered a great deal of loss in their lifetime, even if they're young. And they respond to such loss by lack of attachment or concern for others beyond themselves. I think that's one thing that really strikes me. They have no empathy for somebody else. They hit somebody, they cut and curse at them, they beat them up. Well, how do you think that makes them feel? I don't know. Bad, I guess. There's no empathy. There's no putting yourself in the place of somebody else. There's just that disconnect there. They've perhaps lost a parent through parental abandonment, or death, or incarceration. They've lost siblings. Dealing with a family now. The older brother was the first murder fatality of 2015 in Harrisburg this year. I don't know about you, but none of my siblings have gotten shot and killed. I don't know. I haven't had to deal with that, praise God, but this isn't unusual for them. Losing peer friendships because they frequently move. I'm amazed. Every few months they're moving. They move right in the middle of the school year. Could you imagine starting a new school in February or March when all the social groups have already been formed for the year? If you're moving into a new school in the middle of the year or towards the end of the year, and all these social relationships have already been established, who are you going to find to be your friends? Who's left? The kids who don't have any friends. And who are the kids who don't have any friends? The kids that nobody wants to be around, and there's a reason for it. And so who are the at-risk kids going to hang out with? The kids that nobody else wants in their group. And they just see how it just builds on each other. Losing home security, predictability, and routine, again, by moving frequently. They built up protective walls that are difficult to break down. So I hope you like challenges. You must if you're going to be a camp counselor. Look at it as a challenge. I'm going to tear this kid's wall down this week. I love to terrorize these kids in a good way. I love to make them feel uncomfortable. Most tend to be very loud. You'll know who they are because they're loud. When I go into their homes, and I'm in their homes every week, the TV's always going, there's lots of people in the home, so they're talking. So how do you get hurt among all that? You gotta be loud. And I think there's this thinking in their head that if they can outshout you and they can talk over you, then they can control you. Mm-hmm. So they will be loud. Really loud. But that's their environment. They don't follow instructions, because they're usually the ones who are making the rules and giving the instructions. If you're home alone, there's no parent telling you what to do. Or if you belong to a single mom who's busy managing life and taking care of the house or cooking the meals or working or doing the laundry or whatever, they don't have time to make all the rules, so you make your own rules. Nobody's there to tell them what to do or when to do it. And now they're going to live in your cabin for a week, and you're going to tell them what to do. And they're not used to that. So you're going to have to work with them. Many are used to caring for younger siblings, so they're the ones who make the rules, not the ones who follow the rules. Even if they're 7, 8, 9 years old, they're the ones who are making the rules. And if you give them free time, and they make up their own games, or they want to play games, they'll spend more time arguing about the games and the rules and how it's supposed to be played than they will playing it. I keep saying, guys, this is supposed to be fun. Why are you fighting over everything? Because they're used to making the rules. And if somebody makes rules different than theirs, well, then their rules are wrong and my rules are right, and we're going to fight about it. Here's a real sad one. They expect not to be liked. They expect not to be liked. Why? Because nobody likes them. Nobody likes them. Other kids in your cabin may not like these at-risk cabin mates. And sometimes you can't blame them. If you're getting beat up by somebody, bullied by somebody, are you going to like them? If they're always getting your cabin into trouble, are the other kids in the cabin going to like them? If they're always ruining things or getting in there and being first all the time and not sharing and not being considerate of others, are other kids in your cabin going to like these kids? No. Again, we parents who are raising kids in a Christian environment say, stay away from those bad kids. Surround yourself with good, positive kids who are going to reinforce your faith and help you to grow in Jesus and help you to live like Jesus. Don't be around those other kids. Well, I'm bringing them to you. Whether you like it or not, they're coming. But they expect to be rejected because everybody else has. And if you don't reject them, they don't know how to handle it. That's what I mean. I love to terrorize them in a good way. Now that doesn't mean you don't discipline them. We'll talk about that. But don't ever reject them. Don't ever let them feel rejected. Because they'll say, yep, you're Oh, you talk about Jesus and about God's love, but you don't love me. They're going to put you to the test. Because if you love them and you accept them and you want to be with them, they don't know how to handle that. And that makes them feel very uncomfortable. And so they will sabotage their relationships with you or anybody else that likes them, so that you will grow not to like them because that's what's comfortable. That's sick, isn't it? But it's reality. They will work hard to make you not like them because they don't know how to handle love and unconditional acceptance. They just aren't used to it. These children are often rejected by others, often for legitimate reasons, so they expect to be rejected in every social situation, every setting. Often as a defense mechanism, troubled children will sabotage their relationships. For a child experiencing this intense pain, negative responses from others at least provide some form of emotional connection and familiarity. And they lack proper moral standards. Ask them what kind of TV shows they watch, what kind of video games they play, what kind of music they listen to. Probably the kind of music they listen to is not the kind of music that you listen to. And if you listen to that kind of music, you'll get blown away. I Googled some of the stuff that they were listening to just so I could understand what they're being exposed to, and it is shocking. And yet this is normal for them. In April, we always have a skating party for them. We run a roller rink, and we have our own DJs who play Christian music, but the DJs say, you know, we've got a clipboard up here, write down songs that you want us to play while you're roller skating. They never pick the songs of these kids. And these kids are not trying to be smart Alex or anything like that. This is truly the music that they listen to. So their social environment is giving them values. You know, why are you getting upset that they swear? Using the F word is common for them. They use it, they hear it, their parents use it, their friends use it. Why are you getting them in trouble for saying this? You survive by beating each other up in the neighborhood. So if some kid's bugging me and I beat him up, why am I getting in trouble for this? I don't get in trouble at home. I had a problem at Cumberland Point about 3 years ago. A lot of Somali and Ethiopian refugees moved into Cumberland Point, and the African Americans didn't like it. And so there was tension between the Africans, as they call them, and the African Americans. And they would bring that into our after-school program, and there would be fights between them. And of course, we don't allow that in our after-school program. I said, you can't do that here. And they said, but Pastor Terry, my mom says that if they say something to me or if they do something to me, I'm supposed to beat them up. So you're telling me not to fight them, and my mom's telling me to fight them. What am I supposed to do? I felt like saying, well, your mom's an idiot. Don't listen to her. I can't do that. So, and in their environment, maybe they needed to do that. I don't know. But I had to say, as long as you're in my program here at this church, this is a safe place. You don't have to respond that way. And it's not allowed here. So, if you run into that here at camp, you can always say, at camp, this is a safe place. We don't want any cussing and swearing. We don't want anybody fighting and being beat up and bullied and so on. That doesn't happen here. If that happens in your neighborhood, keep it in your neighborhood, but don't bring it here. What do at-risk children need from you? They need your love. Maybe their cerebellums don't operate great, if their family's dysfunctional, and they live in a community that has a lot of problems, but they're still kids that just need love.
You have got the most powerful weapon that can tear down all the strongholds that they have built up and that society has given to them, and that is God's love. Just blow them away. Have fun doing it. You know how Paul in Romans talks about, not paying back our enemies evil for evil and heaping burning coals on our enemies' heads by responding to them in nice ways? Do that with these kids. They need your love. They will respond to you much better if you first show them that you love them and enjoy them. Love them and enjoy them. Desire to be around them. Don't say, oh, here it comes again. I'm going to go run and hide. Enjoy them. Love them. Be consistently kind yet firm. Warm, gentle, genuine, caring, interested, and appropriately affectionate. You may get lots of hugs from these kids. Maybe not right from the start. But love them. And if they hug you, they need that. They need a good, appropriate, loving touch. Because sometimes the only touches they get are when they're getting smacked. Make time to get to know your students, your cabin kids, and dismantle their defense mechanisms. Get to know them. Ask them again about their families, where they live, what they like to do, what life is like for them. If you show them love, they will show you love in return. I walk through the streets of Cumberland Point, and it's like a Pied Piper. They all come running up to me. Because they know I love them. I've earned their trust. I've been working with them for 9.5 years, and that they know that I'm on their side. One thing they may do is call you racist if they're black. Okay, I've been called racist. And I say, why is that? Well, because you don't let us listen to our kind of music. I said, that has nothing to do with color. I said, it's just that what you're listening to is inappropriate. Or they'll talk about white people a certain way, and I laugh. I say, what do you think I am? Yeah, but you're different. Okay, so all white people aren't what you're describing, And the same towards African Americans or Somalis or Ethiopians or the Bosnians or the other kids that I deal with. To show them love. Love is powerful. But you will probably have to make the first move and show them love. Because they're not used to that. They need your acceptance and your affirmation. Know them by name, learn their stories at free time. Share about yourself, especially if you can find ways to connect with them. You say, well, I don't live in that kind of family. But if you've lost a parent, say, hey, tell me about your family. And they say, well, I don't even know my dad. Wow, my dad died 3 years ago, and that's really hard. It's still hard for me. I really miss my dad sometimes. How about you? How do you feel? Do you miss your dad? Because that's got to be really hard. Find ways to connect with them. Let them see that you're a real person too. And that you've got some shared experiences, even though in many ways you may not be like them. Find ways to connect. Offer lots of praise and affirmation for even the smallest good behavior. Because you don't want to give them attention only when they're misbehaving and doing wrong things. Because if that's the only time they get your attention, what are they going to keep doing? They're going to keep acting up and misbehaving. So, find the smallest things. Hey, I really liked how you got out of bed, when I said everybody up and you got out of bed. I got to tell you, a couple of years ago, we brought up a bunch of 5th grade boys from Cumberland Point. And you know how you give points for your cabin earns points for cleanliness and learning the Bible verses and being kind to others and all the different categories. Well, the people that I work with, and I came to the Friday night program, and how you announce, the 3rd place, 2nd place, 1st place cabin winners. So we're sitting there, and all five or six of the boys were all in the same
But they put them all in the same cabin. And so we're here at the program, they announce, you know, the boys' cabin, third place winner is so-and-so, and second place is so-and-so. And I'm sitting next to the folks that have come up with me from our church, and they said, what would you think if our boys had the first place cabin? And I said, there's no chance on this earth. Wouldn't you know, they were the first place cabin. They were the first place cabin. So affirm them, even for the little positive things. Because if you affirm the little positive things, you'll get more of that. But if you just give them attention for the negative things, you're going to get a whole lot of that. Provide opportunities for them to serve others in need in order to give them a sense of importance, an awareness that they have something to offer, and a focus outside of their own needs. Maybe it's cleaning off your table, or helping another cabin with something, or just helping another cabin mate with something. Maybe you need some gym equipment for an activity you're going to do. Hey, let's go over and get the stuff for us and bring it over here. Give them responsibilities. Let them feel like they've got something to contribute, that they have value and worth and importance. Have children work together cooperatively to achieve a goal or complete an activity in a non-threatening way to help them connect with other kids. They don't know how to connect with other kids. The other kids in your cabins aren't going to be like them. They're coming from different worlds, so help them connect. Hey, everybody, let's do this together. Pair them up with somebody else. Now, I don't know how Camp Joyelle is going to arrange the cabin. All my kids are concerned about, we all want to be together. I said, well, that ain't happening. Maybe you'll have one other person in there that you know. And they're going to want to cling together for security. Not only just because they know that other person, but because they're from the same culture. And they're looking at all these other kids who come from a different culture. So bust that up and pair them up. Pair them up with different kids in your cabin and cause them to work together. Put them in those situations. When appropriate, let them decide what you or the group is going to do. Not all the time, but give them a chance. Hey, for free time we can do this or this. And give them the chance to decide. Acknowledge a bad day. They say, hey, you know what? Today was really lousy. From beginning to end, you were just having a bad day. But you know what? Tomorrow doesn't have to be that way. Let's go to bed, put it to rest. Tomorrow's a new day. Let's make sure that tomorrow's a better day. They need you to give them responsibility because they're used to taking responsibility. Remember, they may be caring for younger siblings. They don't have a mom or a dad at home when they get home from school, so they're used to responsibilities. So show your trust and confidence in them by giving some responsibilities. It builds their self-esteem. It teaches them new skills, but they often lack proper problem-solving skills, so you're going to have to coach them. You're going to have to walk alongside them. Don't just assume, well, they know how to do this. You're going to have to give them some guidance, but it will pay off. They need you to hold them accountable. Be clear on the rules and expectations. Don't assume that they know what they are. You've got to be really clear about that. Have a disciplined plan that you have communicated to them. I don't know if the camp has given you one or if you come up with your own, but make sure you tell them that frequently. If you act up the first time, this is what's going to happen. The second time this, the third time this, the fourth time this. My goal for this year is not to get a call from Camp Joyelle saying we're sending one of your campers home, because that's happened every year. And I think that we've been bringing kids up, and it's been 4 or 5 years. My goal this year is to keep them all there. If you need to send them home, send them home. Poor behaviors typically increase if adults constantly award another chance. I like to be firm, but I'm a softy at heart. I want to reach these kids for Christ. I don't want to send them home. I want them to enjoy the activities and the cool things that are planned. I don't want them sitting out and watching all the other kids have fun. But if you say, okay, I'll give you another chance. I'll give you another chance. Come on, you can do it. You can be better the next time. They're not going to be better by giving them another chance. So you
they know they can break you down and get another chance and another chance and another chance, they're going to keep pushing you. And you're going to keep moving your limit farther and farther and farther back. You can say, this breaks my heart. I love you. I care about you. I don't want to do this. This really does hurt me. But these are the rules. You knew what they were. You acted up. And we've got to follow through. And I find that it's better to start off strict and ease up on the rules as they earn privileges than to start off easy and make the rules stricter. So you may say, hey, you know what? In the next hour, if we can really work together well, this is what we're going to get to do after that. Rather than to say, all right, you kids are acting up, so you know what? We were going to do this after this activity, but since you were acting up all the time and you were such a bother, you lost that privilege. Give them something to work for. Run. Hold them accountable for their actions. Don't excuse them. Oh, well, this is an at-risk kid, so I can't expect this. No, because society is going to expect it of them. There's no two sets of rules. Don't have a set of rules for your campers and then a special set of rules for the at-risk kids. Your other campers are going to pick up on that. The at-risk kids are going to certainly pick up on that. And you're going to have a miserable camp experience. Don't have two sets of rules. Make them follow it. Now, one of the things that we do in our program is that we have a behavior clipboard. And they know the rules. First time is the warning. Second time, their name gets put on the list once. Okay? The next time their name gets put on the behavior list twice, they can't come back to the program the next week. And we stick to them. So let them know up ahead of time. What are the rules? What are the consequences? If they act up and your first rule is they're going to get a warning, go to them, look at them, say, hey, look at me. This is your first warning. What's going to happen the next time? And make them repeat the rule. Hold them to it. They need you to give them hope and a positive future, because there's not a lot of hope and positive futures around them usually. They've been told you're never going to amount to anything, you're good for nothing, we're just going to push you along and get you out of the way. You are put in powerful positions to nurture an at-risk child's dream of a better life. At-risk children need hope. To believe that something good may happen and there's the possibility for a better future. Because there is, isn't there? In Christ, there certainly is. Truly believing that their situations have the opportunity to improve instills a desire in them to try. They are surrounded with other at-risk kids, a lot of whom who have given up. I've got kids who are ready to drop out of school to 5th grade. They think they know everything they need to know, because they know everything that they need to know to function in the environment that they're in. They don't realize they're so much better. So you can build those kids up and say, you know what? I've been watching over the last 3 days here at camp, and I noticed that when you decide to do something, the other kids in the cabin follow you. You've got great leadership with them. Or I see that, you know, that you're really artistic. Why don't you draw something that we can display in our cabin and build them up? Or, man, I see that you're really athletic. Are you going to go out for sports when you're in middle school? Because you're really good at soccer. You're really good at basketball. Build them up. One of the things that we do at Cumberland Point, although my plan got foiled for this week, we offer them 2 weeks of swim lessons at the Cumberland Point pool. So that they learn how to swim. So when you put them through the swim test, they can pass the swim test and they can be in the deep end with the other kids instead of being stuck in the shallow end all by themselves. Except the Cumberland Point pool water wasn't treated early enough and isn't good enough for us to swim in yet. So we may only get next week the swim classes. But it's like, you can do this. You know, I tell them, every day I'm going to go on the camp's website and I'm going to look for you in the swimming pool. I want to see you going off the diving board and things like that. You know? And then when we pick them up, I saw you, way to go, you passed that swim test. You know, if you pass this test, you can pass other tests. Give them hope and a positive future. This may seem strange. They need you to have realistic goals for yourself. You won't be able to undo years of negative and harmful influences quickly. In the 5-6 days that you're going to have with them, you're not going to counteract years of dysfunction. So don't make expectations too high for yourself and then beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up if you lose your temper or your patience with the kid, or say, I just can't stand this kid. I know Pastor Terry said to love them and accept them, and yes, God gave them to me in my cabin, but I can't stand this kid. I must be a terrible counselor. I must be a terrible Christian. Don't think that. Don't give up on yourself. Have realistic goals. Don't blame yourself if you aren't able to reach your at-risk kids. Talk with someone if you're struggling. Your at-risk children need you to stay positive and hopeful. They can sense when you've given up on them. Okay? Don't let them sense that you've given up on them. You know, I can see why everybody doesn't like them. Don't give up on them. Realize that you are sowing seeds into their lives, which you may not see bear fruit, but others in the future may. You know, I've been working with these kids for 9.5 years. I can't give you a whole lot of success stories. I can't say, oh, now they're in high school and they're on the honor roll and they're in this and they're that and they've made something of themselves. I don't know. Most of the kids are in my life for a year, 2, 3 years, and then they have to move to Harrisburg or they move someplace else because they've gotten evicted from the Cumberland Point apartments. And I lose contact with them, so I don't know what's happening, but I do my best while I've got them, and I sow and hope that God's going to take the time that I've got with them, and that God's going to use that in their lives. And that's what you have to do. You know, you may not be able to correct years of what they've gone through, but you're going to give them an awesome week in an environment that they have never experienced before. This is as foreign to them as if we were sending them to China. And God's given you the privilege to work with them, which I think is just so cool. Don't look at it as a chore, look at it as an honor. They need to see Jesus in you. God is sovereign, and He's assigned these children to your care. God doesn't make mistakes. And long before you were ever born, and long before they were ever born, it was God's purpose to bring you two together for this time. And I can't wait to see what God's going to do. I'm excited I'm bringing a couple Muslim kids. That just blows me away that there's going to be Muslim kids at this Christian camp. I think that's so cool. Only God can do something like that. Don't say, wow, Pastor Terry, you're great. No, it's not me. It's clearly God. God is entrusting you with showing them His unconditional love and acceptance and providing them with hope for their future through Jesus Christ. See working with them as a privilege and not as a punishment, and pray for them faithfully, because that's what it's going to take. You cannot break down the walls. It's going to be God's Spirit that breaks down those walls and transforms their hearts. So pray for them. And I commit myself to you, and I've got a team of about 25, 30 people that work with these kids, that they are going to be praying for you. And our whole church, a couple thousand people, will be specifically praying for you guys the weeks that they are here. All through the summer, but specifically for the weeks that these kids are going to be here, that you will impact their lives. Okay. When I pick them up on Friday evening, on the ride home, they are bawling their eyes out because they don't want to leave here. They want you to be their best friends forever and ever and ever. They've already asked, so-and-so going to be there, so-and-so going to be there. The
if they've come before, they're looking for people they remember, for their counselors, where they're looking for. I don't know who's coming. So you will make an impact. You may not see it. You probably won't see it in the time that you have with God. But you will make an impact. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, we thank you that you are our Creator God, and that you are sovereign over everything that happens, not only in our own lives, but everything that happens in this entire universe, and that you don't make any mistakes, but that your purpose is good and honorable and perfect. That there is no greater plan than the one that you have already laid out. And thank you that you have made us part of that plan, that you have redeemed us for yourself, that you have called us to be part of your family, and that you've allowed us to partner with you in the work that you are doing in this world. And thank you for these counselors, for these young men and women who love you so much because you have first loved them, that they want to share your love with the children and youth that you're going to bring to them this summer. I thank you, Lord, for their sacrifice of their time. For some it may be a financial sacrifice, in order to be here and invest themselves in that which is spiritual and that which will go on for eternity. And I pray, Lord, that you will honor their obedience and their commitment to you by giving them a tremendous summer, one that will just blow them away as only you can do that. And Lord, we believe that you don't make mistakes even with the at-risk kids. That whether there is brain issues going on, or social issues, family issues, whatever the case may be, Lord, they are in their families and in their situations for a purpose, a good purpose that you have. And Lord, we pray that you will use us in their lives, that your transforming power and love will work through us to change their lives.